In government contracting, you have the opportunity to really create wealth for yourself so that you can then go back and help your community in a meaningful way. So that's why I say this is the way. This has been the way. Before I knew it, I had clients all across, the nation getting results, following the blueprint, being coachable, getting results, landing contracts, changing their financial history, becoming first generation 7-figure earners, first generation 6-figure earners. If we truly want to create generational wealth for our children, we have to tap into the source, and that is this. Government contracting is the source.
All right, welcome back to the Construction Game Podcast. Super excited to have Dr. Karwanna on the podcast today talking about government contracting. Dr. Karwanna, where are you calling in from?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm calling in from California, the Bay Area. Yeah, this is where
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Great. And so you're in government contracting, or how'd you get started in government contracting?
So years ago, I would say it's been some years now. I want to say it's been about maybe 18 years ago. I was actually videographer, photographer. So I had a small sole proprietorship, doing media locally. And so at that time I was, chasing a lot of customers, doing like individual photo shoots, weddings, like church media, anything that I can do. But I found myself still struggling as an entrepreneur, even though I was working really hard. And, I was kind of stuck under $100,000 a year there. So, in my freelance journey, I ran into a guy who happened to build a $1 billion industry business. And so he was a construction engineer, by the way. So he had a construction business doing engineering for the government. And that was the first time I ever had heard about contracting with the government. And I was telling him about the struggles that, that I was having as a small business out here hustling, trying to really figure it out. And he said, well, you just have to do business with the government. In fact, he told me that chasing customers was the wrong thing and that I was totally doing business wrong. And if I do business with the government, it will literally help me grow my business 100 times bigger than what I was doing at the time. And that's how I got started. Yeah.
That's great. And now, did he help you get into government contracting, or say hey, you want to go here or do this? Or was it just more of he's put the idea in your head and then you had to go take the next steps? Or?
Yeah, really great question. The crazy thing about it is he couldn't show me the way, right? So he had this successful company, but he couldn't show me the blueprint step by step. He hadn't documented it, but he put the idea in my head and he gave me some starting points. Go to the city, go get your certifications. And that's as far as our conversation went with that. And so, so he couldn't really show me the way. So I figured it out. I had to figure it out. And it took me about 2 years, literally doing it all wrong to really do it right. Because I went back and see, well, why am I failing? Why do I keep failing? I was just really curious as to how to really make this work. And so after 2 years, I said, well, let me try it this way. And then that one contract hit. That first contract was $70,000 for 28 days of work. And I was like, oh, wait, something just happened. Let me just rinse and repeat what I just did. And then I started landing multiple $70,000, $60,000, $100,000 contracts simultaneously. And before I knew it, my company had grown from $30,000 a year struggling to over $300,000 to $500,000, in a very short period of time. And I was like, oh my God, this is the $1 trillion secret that most entrepreneurs need to know and don't know. But the mentor that had put it into my head, I would go to him sometime and say, well, I'm looking at this bid. How do I estimate? I'm looking at this. And so he would give me pointers, but he just didn't know how to coach me through it, like that. But yeah, it's been a great journey.
That's great. That's awesome. And yeah, in the beginning, it took me a year to really get my first government prime contract. So during that process, why didn't you quit? You said, it wasn't an overnight success in terms of getting your first. Why didn't you quit?
Well, when you go through I have started my business originally in 2008. So by the time 2012, 2013, when I had really started thriving in government contracts, by the time that hit, I have been used to struggling and, hustling and figuring it out. And the one thing that I knew is like, it was something about business that I know works, because every success story that I've seen, they were entrepreneurs and they were thriving in business. So I knew that I had something. I just couldn't figure out how to make it work. So I wasn't willing to quit, because I had walked away from a traditional 9 to 5 in faith that my business is going to take me to financial prosperity and to help me create the wealth for my family that I wanted to create. And so I couldn't quit, and I refused to go back to work a traditional 9 to 5, because I had prioritized being able to be a stay-home mom, being able to, work from home, and just prioritizing my family around my business, putting God first, of course, then family, and then being able to grow, thrive in business. So working a traditional 9 to 5 did not fit into the mold of where I wanted to grow to. And so I couldn't quit, and I had to figure it out. And I knew that if it was people around me who wasn't willing to share the information, by the way, like people around me who were succeeding in it, that were gatekeeping the information, I figured like one day I'm going to figure it out. And I was just determined to make it happen. And so that's why I became the person who opens the doors for other people and show them, this is how I did it. This is what I did. And this is the thought process. You can't be a quitter. As long as you don't quit, you're definitely going to be a winner.
100%. 100%. Love that. Love that. That's great. That's great. So when you're saying there's a bunch of like gatekeepers that were keeping information and weren't really sharing with you how to like, I call it threading the needle, right?
Yeah.
So then how did you eventually get it? How did you figure it out? Like, do you just bumping your head along the way, or did somebody like say or do something, or what experience happened that allowed you to actually get it?
That's a really good question. So yeah, I just kept bumping my head. And there's a saying that says, if you continue to do the same thing but expect different results, then that's the definition of insanity, right? So I kept making the same mistake over and over and over again. And I said, well, in order for me to test to see if I can succeed in this, I got to do something different. So it's crazy, because when I first started looking at proposal writing, responding to bids, like I didn't realize that my skill set was a sub. Like my skill set that I'm bringing to the table was like subcontracting. So I just knew that I had something to offer. So I actually would look at construction projects, and I knew that they needed to do Division I documentation in California. So I knew they needed my service as a photographer. And so I would actually try to respond to that proposal as a prime. And so when I kept seeing that it was wrong, trying to respond as a prime, then I started thinking, well, how about I take this list of bidders and respond to them and let them know to put me in their bid. And then I figured out that started working. So when that process worked, I started landing multiple subcontracts, and people started, like prime contractors started using me left and right. And I said, oh, okay, so this is the secret sauce. And then I understood that there are some particular contracts that I could be the prime on, right? And so I just kind of started figuring out how this thing works by making the mistakes and being willing to analyze my mistakes and figuring out how to actually turn those mistakes into profits.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And honestly, that does work. Because we're in multiple work construction contracts, and there's people that reach out to us, and they're so consistent, and they're like, hey man, we can help you with your electrical. Hey, we can help you with the mechanical. Hey, we can help you with the roofing. And like, they're right there. They want to do the work. They're hungry. Like, of course I'm going to ask you for a proposal. And then oftentimes it leads to them helping us get the project to the finish line. So I totally love that thought process there, and it does work. And to also add to that, it's so good that you went in as a subcontractor, because one of the things that I used to do is I would go to these vendor outreach events, and I had done all my research, and I knew all the companies that were getting the awards, right? Yeah. And I hadn't gotten an award up to this point, but I knew the companies that had gotten them. Yeah. And I was at this vendor outreach, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the lady that she has a $10 million business. She's got awarded $10 million dollars worth of contracts. And I was all excited. I was just standing right behind her, just listening to her. But one thing I realized is she was just like me. Yeah. She was no different. She just knew how to articulate herself in a way to actually get the contract. Absolutely. So like by getting around people and getting in that space, in that industry, you get that comfort level for how this industry navigates and moves, and can actually like go and get the prime contracts for yourself. So that's awesome. That's real good.
Absolutely. Like I literally remember being in those rooms, like for the first 5 to 7 years of like doing government contracts. I was in every room. I was at every pre-bid meeting, every meet the buyer event. And I was like just so determined to suck up all the information, to learn, to build the relationships and really try to figure it out. And so I really immersed myself, in that industry. And so you definitely have to be in the rooms. And so there's a lot of like people who teach about government contracting, like me, I teach about the whole business model. You have to market yourself. You have to show up in rooms. You got to know who the buyers are. You got to know who the primes are. You have to really do that because otherwise you're just like pitching to win a contract here or there. If you don't understand the full business model, then it's just a side hustle, right? So I teach the full business model, and I think it's important for people to truly understand how to really navigate and to really bid for opportunities for themselves. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And that's really important. It really is important, especially in the beginning, because like you're building your own confidence. You're taking reps. You know what I mean? Then that's such a big part of the whole process and getting contracts and then continuing to get contracts.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So when you landed your first multi-$100,000 year, like what was next? Did you double down on that, or did you pivot? Like what was next?
I continued to double down. Like I remember one year, and this was like during the pandemic, I think I was managing probably about 20 contracts simultaneously. Some of them were multiple six figures, some of them were like $80,000 to $90,000, but I managed them simultaneously. So much so that I had started doing so well in government contracting that I would forget to invoice on some of those contracts. And so that's when I realized that this whole thing requires real business thought processes, right? You have to have project management skills. You have to have invoicing skills. You have to track the contracts that you're getting and the contracts that you're bidding out on. So it's a whole business, cycle and infrastructure that you have to really be aware of in order to really succeed and thrive in this area. So I continue to just land them simultaneously and grow. And then the more I would grow, the more people would be, asking me like, how did you do it? And I started like talking about it and going into the communities and sharing information with small business owners and teaching them like literally for free. This is how you do it. This is what you do. This is how you start, grow, and scale a small business. You start your business, you become fundable, you do all your certifications, then you start doing contracts. So I had a whole free business concept, and I was really excited about it. So then I evolved to become this transformational business coach that's helping other people thrive in this space as well.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Because when not everybody has 20 contracts, but I understand what it, when you get 20 contracts and your butt's on the line, your butt is on the line. So you got to perform, right? And then, obviously the invoicing and all that stuff, the operations, getting the project to the finish line successfully, all of those things matter. So that's great. That's really good. That's good. And then, the transformational coach, like, that's one of the things that I even look at myself as, right? Like, even with our team members, right? Like we have team members that come in, like they've never done government contracting estimating or government contracting as a superintendent or never done government contracting as a project manager. But like, I got to bring them through that same transformation. Right.
Yeah.
But like, once they come in and they get it, they can actually come in and add value to the business. Right. And then who's submitting the invoices? They're helping submit the invoice. Who's making sure projects are getting to the finish line correctly? They're helping me get projects to the finish line correctly. Who's helping me estimate the projects? They're helping me estimate the projects correctly. So it's really important. It's important if you're a coach, and it's also important if you're wanting to be in government contracting and potentially own your own business and then be successful in it, because you're going to have to coach that transformation.
Absolutely.
Not everybody knows about this space, but they need to know about it and know how to execute properly on it once they're in it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. Great. So what did that transition look like? Did that happen over like in over a year, or that was like a couple years as you started to like focus more on the transformation coaching?
I would say probably about 7 years into contracting myself, I really start pivoting into coaching more people because I saw that, like, I've always been a very passionate person who loved to share information ever since I can remember. Even as a kid, I always shared information to help people. And even before I even had, like wealth and business and a successful business, whatever I would learn, I would share that information even where I was at the time. So for me, it was an easy transition to helping more people. And then before I knew it, I had clients all across, the nation, getting results, following the blueprint, being coachable, getting results, landing contracts, changing their financial, history, and becoming first generation 7-figure earners, first generation 6-figure earners. And I just fell in love with the impact, and I saw how powerful it could be because, especially as a minority business owner, a lot of information is just unkept. It's unshared, with us because we have all this history that has kept us out of real, true transformational experiences. And so for me, it was important for me to create a book, which I do have. It's called Don't Duck the Government. They've Got Your Money. And it's all about how you can make millions pitching and winning government contracts. And so not only did I write the story, but I created a blueprint to show other minority entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, or just small business entrepreneurs in general who are sick and tired of, struggling and chasing customers and, living paycheck to paycheck as an entrepreneur, that this is the way to really truly create wealth in government contracting. And so for me, it's like I'm living out my purpose, and I feel so just satisfied that I'm able to have that type of a story in changing lives.
That's great. And when you say this is the way to create wealth, like why are you saying this is the way versus like other forms of contracting?
Because it makes all the sense in the world, right? I mean, I may have some bias in it, because like I may have some bias in it, but for me, it's like the government prints the money, right? And so it's like going directly to the source for all the money. And not to mention that they're obligated to spend the money with small business entrepreneurs. So it's like a customer that you don't have to convince. It's an industry that's already thriving with funds that's earmarked for small business owners, for minority business owners, for veteran business owners, from, just all the socially economically disadvantaged businesses, right? And even big businesses are doing government contracts, but it's an opportunity for the little guys to, share in the $1 trillion industry and be able to come out with hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. And you can grow as big as you want, or you can stay as small as you want to be, but the opportunities are there. So that's why I say this is the way. So it's like, sometimes, like, I'm just going to speak from my own experience. Like when I was growing up, I grew up really, poor, and I call myself, I have the food stamps to fortune story, because we really did depend on food stamps and food boxes and those particular things. But I always had a heart to serve my community. And I always wanted to be in position to help others who were less fortunate than me. And so in order for me to be able to make that a reality, I knew that I needed to be able to tap into wealth and riches, because finances is the only solution to that. And in government contracting, you have the opportunity to really create wealth for yourself so that you can then go back and help your community in a meaningful way. It's one thing to be able to donate $100, $200, $300, but it's another to be financially in a position to donate hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to a cause that's meaningful to you. And so that's why I say this is the way. This has been the way. And it's always been around, ever since. I mean, I only discovered this back in 2008, 9, 10, but this has been around like for centuries, even before I came into, to knowing this knowledge. But I just say that it's the way. And every successful, even corporate business owner that I know of have government contracts. Like Elon Musk, for instance, has a government contracts. Like Jeff Bezos have government contracts. These people have government contracts, and so they're no different from us. And so if we truly want to create wealth in our business, if we truly want to be the change makers in our community, if we truly want to create generational wealth for our children, we have to tap into the source, and that is this. Government contracting is the source.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. That was great. That was real good. That was good. And honestly, that's like when I first started in the game, I was like, man, like I knew that the government had money, but I just was like, I was struggling. I mean, we were a subcontractor and we were getting beat up all over the place. And I remember you said it earlier. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and again and expecting a different results. I was a subcontractor. I was getting beat up. They were stringing me out on my money. I'm sitting there spending tens of thousands of dollars a week on payroll, on equipment, on fuel and material. And then at the end of the month, I don't have any money to pay these people and I'm stressed out. And I'm like, man, I got somebody is making money here. It's just not me. And I got to touch the money first. And it was like, then my next step was like, I could go make a bunch of relationships and try to be buddy with people to maybe go get a contract, or I can go and just submit my proposals and I don't have to build this crazy relationship with someone. I could just be the person that submits my proposals and goes and shows up and continues to show up for government contracts. And then boom, I hit my first one. And then it was like, from there, it was just on. Cause like I understood the process, I understood the game, and it was just like, let's go.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what it takes. So even for myself, like, at first I was, I started off as a subcontractor, getting opportunities handed to me, but that gave me the opportunity to really learn and understand how it all works and what it takes to be on the other side as a prime. Because at one point you're the person receiving opportunities, and then you grow and evolve and expand your knowledge base in your team so that you can give the opportunities to other small business owners.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you on that, because everybody's like, oh, Oliver, you're an overnight success, but like, that first project that we ever got was we were a subcontractor, and I remember it was like clear as day. It was a box culvert installation in Massachusetts, and it was on a golf course, and it was a $30,000 project that we had gotten. And I originally had submitted $60,000 in my proposal, but for some reason I ended up signing the contract for $30,000. Shame on me. And we went and executed that project. I went there when it was, sunny outside. The stream that was running through my project looked like a little stream. I was like, there's nothing to worry about here. We got it on site. We set up our water diversion system. We pulled the existing box culvert. We started installing our new one, and boom, a rainstorm comes. All the water comes down the hill. This thing looked like the Mississippi River. It washed out my entire thing. But we were the subcontractor in the situation. So I was watching how the general contractor was communicating with the government, because we had a problem, and they were addressing the problem, and they were addressing the problem through me, but they still were addressing the problem, making sure the site was clean, making sure the site was taken care of. And we ended up finishing that project, and that project ended up costing me $60,000. I should have stuck with my original number, right? But I'm telling you, because I did that project, and the things that I learned, and how the GC set me up, and how they spoke to me, and how they spoke to the government, I've used that same project to now go do over $250 million worth of projects. I just used the exact same principles from that one project. So like when I first lost that $30,000, I was like, man, I thought I was like, I thought I was the biggest loser in town. I was like this close from quitting, from quitting. Right. But that $30,000 education that I got is literally the exact same education that I've been using on all of these projects, and then teaching my team on how to perform and execute these projects. So yeah, no, that's 100% correct.
Like it was the $30,000 lesson that brought you the $200 million blessing. Wow, that's a book right there.
Yeah. See, you already transforming my thought process, coaching me up. Yeah. No, 100%. And that was another thing that I learned in the government contracting space, was like that first project that I got down in Sanibel Island. I remember it because I had met this guy who had been doing government contracting, and he was a prime contractor, and obviously that was what I wanted to do. And at the time I was a subcontractor, and he was saying, hey man, I got all these contracts up here in the Northeast, but I'm not giving you any of my projects. But if you want to go out there and find your own projects, I'll help you get them done. And honestly, that was all that I needed to hear. So I went out there and started finding my own projects. Right. And, we submitted that project down in Sanibel Island. And I remember the contracting officer reaching back out to me saying, "Hey, Oliver, you submitted your proposal and everything is looking all right, but we need you to sharpen your pencil.
Yeah.
We need you to sharpen your pencil."
Yeah.
And what does that really mean?
And what does that
That's
mean?
code language for, reduce your profit.
Yeah. That's so
We don't
funny.
want to pay you that much.
You
Right?
know, that
But my mentor at the time was like,
Go ahead.
"Oliver, do not
Okay.
touch the number." I was like, "Oh no, we gotta touch the number. We gotta get the job. We gotta get the job."
Yeah.
"Oliver, do not touch the number."
Yes.
And I just was like, "All right, I'm gonna submit it." And then next thing you know, I get the award notice, and I was like, "Man,
Wow.
all of those years I was losing money because I was giving away my profit. That's why I wasn't in a position to make money. I needed that knowledge. I needed that certainty. Like, no, my number's right, and if it ain't right, then I need to go find a new project."
Yep. And you gotta truly know your value, right? Because sometimes, especially when you're just getting, like, you're brand new, you don't know your value when you're brand new. You're like, oh, well, is that going to be too much money? Let me just kind of stay in my comfort zone, but there's so many opportunities for you to increase your profit margin when you're doing business with the government. So you can't be afraid of big numbers because they play by big numbers, and then your story reminds me of the parable of teaching a man to fish, right? So it's like there's a story that talks about how you can give a man to fish, he'll eat for the day. But if you teach him to fish, he'll never starve again. So like people could give you contracting opportunities and you'll eat as long as they're feeding you. But you going out and learning how to do this on your own, like you'll never have to depend on anyone to feed you, your family, to provide for you ever again. Because it's a knowledge that you gain that you never forget. And you can always actually start multiple businesses, that do government contracts. Yes.
Yeah, when you said that, it gave me chills because it brought me back to that time. But I mean, you're 100% right because it brought this dog out of me. Think about at the time I was $500,000 in the hole, right? So I had bill collectors calling me. I had everybody and their brother calling me wanting their money, and I wanted to pay them back. So I was picking up the call. "I don't have your money right now. I'm going to get it to you." And then some of these people were getting litigious. Like I had Caterpillar. They were sending their lawsuit notices and all this stuff to me. So I at the time, like I had committed and made all these like commitments, but like I didn't even have the confidence to even get on the phone. But I had to find the confidence to get on the phone because I had made those big boy decisions to go in that hole. Now I had to make these big boy decisions to get on the phone. So I got on the phone and I started calling and I started figuring out. And I said my pitch wrong so many times that I was finally able to say it right.
Wow.
But like no one can ever take that away from me. And that's what you were just saying is like you teach a man, you give a man a fish, he can eat for that day, but you teach him how to fish, he can eat forever. And that's exactly what we do. And that's what I teach my team to do too now. Is like, hey, this is how we got to do it. This is how we got to navigate. This is how we got to talk. We can't say it this way. We got to say it this way.
Yeah. And so there's so many business owners who's not willing to go through that, right? They would have walked away at the first fail, and that's why 80, like literally out of the 33 million companies that's in America, 86% makes less than $100,000 because they don't have that wherewithal or that will to push past the no's, to push past their failures. And like John Maxwell said it best, fail forward, right? You got to be willing to fall on your face. You got to be willing to lose it all to gain it all and more, right? You got to sow some seeds and be willing to take a loss if you truly want to win. That's the only way it works. Like you got to give in order to get. And that is one of the principles in business that I have learned. Like you got to be willing to sacrifice something in order to gain the thing that you are willing to gain.
And is that something that the people that come into like the other business owners that are coming into your environment, are they of that mindset initially, or do you have to like coach them into getting in that mindset?
I have to coach them into getting into that mindset. So very rarely do people come in ready, because if you already have that mindset, your money will match your energy. It will already match that, right? And so typically people who are coming into my space, they are looking to create wealth, right? They haven't already created it. They're looking to create that. And so your money, I'm a true believer in like your money will match who you are. And so the more money you want to make, you got to become and evolve to become that person. So if you want to be a 7-figure earner, 8-figure earner, now you got to evolve from where you are. If you're at 5 figures, you got a lot of work to do on some inner work, some inner me, right? And so I truly do believe in the be do have success principle of becoming the person that will do great things so that you can have great results, right? So it starts with the identity. And so, yes, it is definitely something that I help people to identify who they are based on whose they are. And so I'm a purpose driven business coach. So I believe in biblical principles and helping people to identify if you come from the great, then that means you are the heir of a great and you deserve great things, right? And so you are here to prosper. But if you don't know who you are, then you're just accepting, right? And you're just just wherever the wind blows, that's where you're going. So I do help people to identify who they are and where they want to go, and that they are worthy of achieving the thing that they say they want to accomplish.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. No, it's a big part. That's a big part of success.
Part.
It is.
Yeah,
I mean, you can try to dodge it as much as you want, but that's a big part of it, right? Because there's no one out there on the corner giving away, handing out tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to add enough value so that someone's willing to make that exchange. So I love even having those conversations with our team members and like understanding what their goal is and how they what the big numbers that they want. And I love team members that come in with big goals. And I cringe when a team member has a small goal, because I just already know that it's like there's something that's not in alignment, right? But a team member that has a big goal but is also willing to put the work in. Right. I love those team members because it's like, okay, it's game on.
That's that faith and work, right? Putting faith into action, that principle. So, I'm a true believer. Like I love people who have goals, but when you have a goal without a plan, an action plan that you're willing to go work out, right? Then really it's just a dream. And so there are dreamers and there are people who are doers. And so you got to decide which one you're going to be. When I talk, this is just how direct I am with people, because we've been so programmed to think that things just happen by chance. Like even being a part of the programs, growing up in, traditional education, like I used to think that, in order for me to be successful, somebody's going to come give me something, right? I'm going to go get a job. They're going to give me enough money to have the lifestyle. And that never worked. And so, eventually I realized that whatever big dreams that I have to figure out who needs to be in my life to help me create the plan, and what resources I need to make that dreams a reality, and how much work I have to put into it. And so there's definitely going to be work for every dream that you want to accomplish, but everything is figure outable and every dream could be a reality.
100%. 100%. That's great. That's good. That's good. Yeah. You're doing a lot of, you're doing everything that you're saying is hitting those mental spots that are truth. That have always been true to me. Right. And that's helped me create success. So I love that. Love that. So during this journey, have you ever had any setbacks?
I have had, I have had some setbacks. I remember, like the first year of doing contracts, with the government, it just as an entrepreneur, period. There were, when you're a subcontractor, this has probably happened to you. So sometimes like the prime will play and they won't pay you. They won't pay you on time. They pay you late. You got to, and so now, but your bills don't stop, right? So that financially can set you back, especially if you didn't come with loans and money and capital and stuff. And so you're depending on that money. So those are setbacks. But how I overcome. So I believe in, there's a problem, now we have to figure out how to solve it. So, because every problem is solvable, right? And so that's when I started understanding that business and entrepreneurship is more than just a client. It's more than just getting contracts. It's understanding the whole ecosystem of access and capital, of having business credit, of having, leverage, of having personal credit, of, having multiple streams, not multiple businesses, but multiple ways that, you can monetize your business assets and even your intellectual property to actually grow and thrive. So it's more than just one thing. It's like you have to understand the fullness of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because the challenges are going to present themselves. And if
Yes.
you don't have that toolkit, or you're distracted on too many different things,
Hmm.
then you're just not gonna have the capacity to address the issues. So
Right, correct.
that's a good one, and that's a real thing, like with the when you're a subcontractor and
Mhm.
not getting paid on time and all that stuff. But when you do become a prime contractor, and this is one of the things that I always ran by, is like,
Yeah.
once I became a prime contractor, I'm gonna pay my subs on time. I'm gonna make sure they get paid. I'm gonna take care of.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we pay them even before we get paid.
Yeah.
Why? Because especially if they do good work, and that was the thing that used to burn me up so mad, is
Yeah.
we were killing ourselves doing great work, and we were getting dragged down on our payment. So we
Yeah.
got a sub that's doing great work, and they're showing up and they're doing everything that we need, and they're making us look good.
Yeah.
You can bet you they call me, they all over me. Don't worry about it, we got you. You know what I mean? And then we just push it to the finish line together.
Yeah. Absolutely. You
That's
got to definitely
huge.
sow good seeds. You'll reap a great harvest.
Yes. Cool. Any other challenges that you faced along the way?
I mean, for the most part, just understanding how to navigate through business. That's pretty much one of the other challenges. But I will also say that as you grow in business, like challenges don't never just disappear, right? As you grow, the more you grow, now you have a new set of challenges. So going from 5 figures to 6 figures it included a whole nother realm of challenges, and going from 6 figures to 7 figures, it opens up a door for other challenges that you now have to overcome, which is like having tax strategies in place and understanding what to do with your money, the profits, and making it grow, and thinking about, retirement, and having a game plan for that, and making your money make money so that you're not just doing what you were doing when you were a 5 figure earner. So all great problems to have, right? But every level there's a new something that you have to learn and overcome. And so that's why for me it's always about mentorships, because there's always someone who's already accomplished where you're getting ready to go. So having that blueprint to jumpstart and have a faster way to accomplish those things is better than trying to figure it out on your own, wasting time and wasting money in the process. And so mentorship, coaching, all of that is very important, a very important part of the journey of entrepreneurs, regardless if you're doing government contracts or whatever. It doesn't matter. You definitely need a mentor. You definitely need a coach and someone who can walk you through the shortcuts and teach you what to avoid, what mistakes to avoid.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. And I used to have that same thought process, like, oh man, once I make money, I'm gonna get rid of all my problems.
Nope.
But once you take care of your money problems, that's when all the other problems rise. Now you can see all the other problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, that's crazy,
Yeah.
because we always think that one day we're going to solve every problem we can ever think of. Like, it doesn't happen. Like, as soon as I make money, I'm no longer going to have relationship issues and things of that nature. And now money becomes the relationship issue because now your time is sucked up in your business. And so now so it's always an evolving thing. And so you definitely got to be thinking about problem solving. Life is a business, life is a strategy, and you got to live life on purpose, with a purpose, and not just live by default.
Totally agree. This is great. That's awesome. So how do people get in contact and get with you?
Yeah, so I do have like a 5-day challenge where I walk people through getting their business qualified for government contracts. And these are the people who are either have tried and failed miserably, or are just curious about getting started and how to really position themselves. And so you can go to contractstomillions.com to register for any of our upcoming 5-day challenges. It's a full immersion, but I'm a direct coach. Like, I really deep dive into the person who you need to become, and the things that you have to stop believing, and the things that you got to start doing in order to get real results. And so this is only for people who really want change in their lives. So contractstomillions.com is where you would go to join us in this ecosystem. Also, you can reach me on IG or Instagram or YouTube under Karwanna D Speaks. So I'm on those most social media platforms as well.
Beautiful. It was great connecting with you. Love your story. Love the impact that you're having, and love what you're doing in the marketplace. So that's great. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Thank you for having me.